Hey guys, if you're familiar with this merit badge, you know that it is one of the more complex Eagle required badges. However, if you are working towards first class ranks, you can easily get a good head start on this badge. Even if you are above first class, by following the tips in this video, I will show you how these requirements can make earning this badge a lot more simple. Hey guys, Matt Guzman here and back with another video, and today's going to be about how to get the camping merit badge. Now, a couple things. This isn't going to instantly make you have the merit badge. By following along with the tenderfoot, second class, and first class rank requirements that I'm going to cover, you can easily get 53% of the camping merit badge, give or take a few percentages, but when I followed these things, it got me exactly 53%, and then that's about half the badge already done already. Alright, so moving on to number 1, it says to do the following. Explain to your counselor the most likely hazards you may encounter while participating in camping activities, and then explain how to anticipate, help prevent, mitigate, and respond to these hazards. And if you do it correctly, first class requirement 5C and 5D will directly correlate to this requirement. Next, 1B says to discuss with counselor the importance to be aware of weather conditions before and during your camping activities. And then tell how you can prepare if weather turns bad during campouts. Now, 1B can apply towards first class requirements 5B, 5C, and 5D. If you do those correctly, you can actually get this requirement done, and it's important because, as you can see here, it's raining pretty hard, so it's always good to have a backup plan and know the weather conditions for where you're actually camping. 1C says to show that you know first aid for and how to prevent injuries or illnesses that could occur while camping, and those injuries or illnesses are as followed. And if you do it correctly, these will directly correlate with second class requirement 6A. Moving on to requirement number 2. Number 2 says to do the following: learn the leave no trace principles and the outdoor code and explain what they mean, and write a personal and or a group plan for implementing these principles on your next outing. Second class requirement 1B correlates with this, and first class requirement 1B. Alright, number 5 is a pretty long one, so bear with me, because if you do it right, if you get tenderfoot 1A while following these, you can get both. So this covers all of 5 if you do it correctly. 5A, prepare a list of clothing you need for overnight campouts in both warm and cold weather. Explain the term layering. 5B says to discuss footwear for different kinds of weather and how the right footwear is important for protecting your feet. Now again, this can tie in towards tenderfoot requirement 1A. You don't instantly get number 5 just for doing 1A. That's not how it works, but you need to, if you do it right, then you can get both. So especially with footwear, footwear is very important because that you're walking everywhere with it, so you need to have the proper shoes. 5C says to explain proper care and storage of camping equipment like clothing, footwear, and bedding. 5D says to list outdoor essentials necessary for any campout and explain why each item is needed. It's more commonly known as the Scout 10 Essentials because these are the 10 things you should always bring with you everywhere during an outing. 5E says to present yourself to your Scoutmaster with your pack for inspection. Be correctly clothed and equipped for an overnight campout. Once again, if you do all those right and directly correlate it to tenderfoot requirement 1A, you can easily get that. Requirement number 6, if you do 6C correctly, it says describe the factors to be considered in deciding where to pitch your tent. Now this can tie into second class 1C, and once again, you can't just get one and say, oh, I have the other, because they're different, but they're similar. So if you do them both similarly, then you can get both. And especially because picking a campsite is very important where you set down your tents, because you need to make sure the ground is flat enough, and it needs to be a very good site for you to sleep on. Number 7A actually falls in line with tenderfoot 1A as well. It says make a checklist of personal and patrol gear that will be needed. One thing I like to reference to is the actual personal camping gear checklist as shown here. That's part of the Boy Scout Handbook. It's really helpful, and it tells you everything that you need, including the Scout 10 Essentials from the previous requirement. And also, it shows you what you need as a group in total for your patrol or your troop on what factors you need and what supplies you need. And remember that this can also tie into Tenderfoot 1A. So if you do Tenderfoot 1A correctly, you can actually get a lot of requirements done, but you need to make sure they actually fulfill the requirements. 7B says to pack gear and your share of patrol equipment and food for proper carrying. Show that your pack can quickly get what is needed and is assembled properly for comfort, weight, balance, size, and neatness. Now, number 8. 8A says to explain the safety procedures for using a propane or butane propane stove, using a liquid fuel stove, and proper storage of extra fuel, and this correlates with second class requirement 2D. 8B is similar, it follows under 2D, but it says discuss the advantages and disadvantages of different types of lightweight cooking stoves. Luckily, this requirement is actually very similar to second class requirement 2D, just like 8A was, so if you do both of those, it's going to be very simple to just transfer it over to this requirement. 8C says to prepare a camp menu, explaining how the menu would differ from backpacking or a float trip. Give recipes and make a food list for the patrol, and plan 2 breakfasts, 3 lunches, and 2 suppers. Now, 8C directly correlates with second class requirement 2E. It is a pretty long one though, so you make sure you're keeping track of what you're actually planning. Discuss how to protect your food against bad weather, animals, and contamination. Now, 8D says while camping in the outdoors, actually cook at least 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, and 1 dinner for your patrol from the meals you have planned for requirement 8C. Now, for those meals you planned, you need to have at least 1 meal in a trail meal requiring the use of a lightweight stove. Now, this requirement is actually almost word for word for first class 2A, so make sure you have that checked off with as well, and also second class 2D, but you already got that from 8A. So that's it for number 8 though. 9A says to do 20 campouts, and out of those 20 campouts, you need to do 2 of the following only with proper preparation and under qualified supervision. Now, this is 9B that's talking about after you do 9A. So 9B says 2 of the following, which is ones I chose: backpack, snowshoe, or cross-country ski for at least 4 miles. In my case, I backpacked, and that can go along with second class 3B. For my second option, I did take a bike trip of at least 15 miles or at least 4 hours. Now, this doesn't really correlate towards a rank, but if you did the cycling merit badge, then you know that the last requirement can fulfill this requirement. And as long as you follow those tips with Tenderfoot, second class, and first class, you can get 53% done with the camping merit badge. So these next requirements aren't really difficult, they just take longer to do, and maybe they're a little bit harder to plan. But as long as you know what you're doing, you can get these done as well. And plus, you already have half the merit badge done, so let's get right into it. Number 3 said to make a written plan for an overnight trek. Show how to get to your camping spot by using a topographical map and one of the following. You need to at least use a compass, or a GPS receiver, or a smartphone with a GPS app. Number 4A says to make a duty roster for showing how your patrol is organized for an actual overnight campout. List assignments for each member. 4B said to help a scout patrol or a Weeblo scout unit in your area and prepare for an actual campout. That includes creating a duty roster, menu planning, equipment needs, general planning, and setting up camp. 6A says to describe features of 4 tents, when and where they could be used, and how to care for the tents, and working with another scout to pitch a tent. Even though this doesn't go with any other rank requirement, as long as you do a little bit of research on 4 different types of tents, all you have to do is just help someone set up a tent, and then you're done with that requirement, so it's not too hard. 6B says to discuss the importance of camp sanitation and tell why water treatment is essential. Demonstrate 2 ways to treat water. 6C says to describe the factors to be considered in deciding where to pitch your tent. And finally, 6E, discuss types of sleeping bags and which ones are suitable for different conditions, and explain the proper care of your sleeping bag and how to keep it dry. And make a comfortable ground bed, which is not using a sleeping bag. That's it for number 6. Moving on to number 9, do the following. 9A says to camp a total of at least 20 nights. So that was the one you need to do first before doing 9B. However, 9A doesn't really directly correlate to any other ranks, but it says to camp a total of at least 20 nights at designated scouting activities or events. One long-term camping experience of 6 consecutive nights may be applied towards this requirement, aka summer camp essentially. Summer camp can apply towards this as well. Also, for this requirement, you need to sleep each night under the sky or in a tent you have pitched, as long as you're outside, or in a tent that's still outside though. However, you do not need to pitch a tent if the camp provides a tent that has already been pitched. Now, 9C says to perform a conservation project approved by the landowner and or land managing agency. This can be done alone or with others. And finally, the last requirement says to discuss how the things you did to earn the badge have taught you about personal health and safety, survival, public health, conservation, and good citizenship. Once you have all this done, you can go towards in discussion, tell how Scout spirit and the Scout Oath and Law apply towards camping and outdoor ethics. Now, as I said before, this is one of the more complex badges, but if you did it right, you can easily make it simpler for you. Thank you for watching my video on how to get the camping merit badge. If you found this helpful, please share it with others, as I think this is a very helpful video towards younger scouts and even older scouts who need help with it. As always, if you like the video, please turn on notifications on my channel, comment down below what you think of it, and I'll see you all in the next one.